Welcome to Meditations, a Stoic podcast, a 12-episode limited series exploring the writing of Marcus Aurelius. Through this work, we will examine the philosophy of Stoicism, how it applied to the life of Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, and how it applies to our own lives today. Kind of scared my dog when we did the clap in there, but he's okay.
He looks like he's doing just fine.
Yeah, he's all right. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. It's really good to be here. It's funny because I think of all the chapters, this is one of the ones I'm kind of excited to talk about. It's all over the place, but it gives a lot to talk about. So this is gonna be a really interesting day.
I think this might be our greatest episode ever of any podcast that we've ever recorded. That's my anticipation.
Okay, that's cool. I'm liking this.
So, just to stress you out, just to really set expectations high.
No pressure or anything.
Yeah.
Dance monkey.
And we are going to be dancing today. I don't know. I don't know how to segue from that. Dancing into chapter 7.
Dancing all over it.
Dancing all over chapter 7 of Meditations here. I am one of your hosts, Jared Poirier. I'm drinking a coffee right now, and I'm here with another guy who is drinking nothing.
Oh, no, I'm drinking some alcohol I have left over from a barbecue yesterday.
Hell
it's
yeah.
It's like a hard red freeze.
Hard red freeze. Does it give you brain freeze?
It kind of tastes like a red freezy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Haven't had one in a while. It turns your tongue red and all that type of stuff. But
childhood memories, though, like nostalgia.
Yeah. Speaking of nostalgia and memories, do you want to give a little bit of historical background for our episode today? I guess the big thing that we want to talk about here is we talked about it a little bit before, like Marcus Aurelius's life, and one of the things that I think makes him truly stoic, right? And makes him someone that we should be investigating their lives if we want to learn about Stoicism. Like the fact that he had so many trials and so many hardships in life, but still remained stoic, right? Do you want to get into some of that stuff, specifically in terms of the pain that he felt every day, the physical pain?
Yeah, I mean, so in a historical sense, the further we get into the chapters, the more likely it is that they were written in the later part of his life. Especially since we don't really know when a lot of this was written exactly. And what that means is that a few things. First of all, over time, there were some serious emotional losses in his life. He also contracted the Antonine Plague, which was a really serious thing. And like all of us, he got older and older and older. He lived in camps his whole life, so he didn't have exactly the kind of pampered life you might expect a Roman emperor to have, sitting on couches and being fed grapes, or however you might picture them. I tend to picture them killing people. But he lived a lot more like a general. He lived on the Danube front. He sometimes was in the city, sometimes was out in camp. And so it wasn't really the lap of luxury. He wasn't staying at the Waldorf in downtown Toronto or anything like that. And so, of course, that came with the inherent physical hardships involved. And then also the difficulty that went along with, the difficulty of losing multiple children, his wife, some very close friends and stuff like that. And I mean, there's a lot of, there's a bit of assumption there because the history on the time is very, very, very limited. But I mean, in a very human sense, you have to assume that that's what he was going through, especially when you read this text, I think.
Yeah, there are some stuff even in this text about him spitting up blood and stuff like that, being weak, right? Being dizzy. People, as you said, it's hard to really say stuff that happened that long ago, exactly what type of ailments that people had, right? But probably like stomach ulcers and maybe some other type of thing. But he definitely wasn't like a healthy person. He didn't experience like good health a lot of his life, right? Like,
Yeah, and the inherent stress of being emperor too did tend to wreck men's health.
mm-hmm.
That was a thing. They very rarely lived long, even when they weren't killed.
Yeah, a lot of people like who write about Marcus Aurelius tend to emphasize the fact that like your life is better than his. So like you shouldn't really
we live
want
way
a
better
life
than
like
these
that.
people did. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
As much as it might be cool to be, think of yourself, kind of project yourself into that situation and be like, oh, the Emperor of Rome. Like it sounds very glamorous, It's not all putting on gold rings and being worshipped by crowds in your ceremonial robes or whatever the hell. For him, it was a lot what you said, hanging out in some dirty camp somewhere.
Exactly. And if you want a good example of what we're talking about, look at pictures of U.S. presidents before they take office and after they leave it.
Yeah, it's true.
There's always like way more than 8 years of aging packed into those.
Well, I mean, Lincoln was particularly bad, but we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, Lincoln aged the worst over the course of his 2 terms.
Well, I mean, also the way that his presidency ended wasn't, he wasn't looking too great. But anyways.
It was a bad time to lose one's head.
Yes, for sure. Indeed. But with modern medical science, anyways. Yeah, I want to talk about that, like the way that Marcus lived and compare that to another Stoic philosopher, Dionysius, who is an early Stoic philosopher. He was a pupil of Zeno of Citium. So, that's pretty much as good a start as you could get, Zeno was considered the founder of Stoicism. So, yeah. Dionysius lived a lot of his life as a Stoic philosopher, like I said, and he gave it up when he started to experience like terrible eye pain. Again, it's hard to know exactly why. I heard some people say that it's gout, but that doesn't really, I don't know why gout. I don't know. It sounds like he basically had migraines, right? Like, isn't that kind of the idea?
Actually, that's fair. So it sounds like it could be migraines or assuming that maybe he was describing it accurately, maybe it was a parasite in his eye.
Okay. Possible.
Like a worm or something?
Possibly a parasite, yeah, in his eye. Anyways, whatever it was, it pissed him off so much that he gave up Stoicism and ended up as a hedonist, like believing that the absence of pain and abundance of pleasure is the highest human good.
Must be nice to have the money to sell out.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Some people can't resist the money, and other people are driven by the pain, right? And that's kind of the thing that you really have to highlight here. Like,
yeah,
is pain so strong that it can actually change the person, actually change their outlook, actually change someone's like deepestly held philosophy, right? And that can be a problem.
Maybe it can be a good thing too.
I don't know. We'll get into it because that's kind of what, speaking of pain, this is actually a good segue. That's what I think into our next section here, section 2. I think that this chapter, like you said, it has quite a few different ideas in it. And I think that we'll be able to touch on quite a few of them in this episode. But to get into distilling book 7 here, I would say the best way that I could distill it, pain is not your master, and don't give it more power than it deserves. And that kind of comes along with like two other ideas. I guess that like I'll just like read kind of the, not necessarily the quote, but like the gist of the idea from section 16, that the soul suffers nothing because it has not concluded that it has. Like, what do you think about that idea?
I'm having a hard time understanding what it means, to be honest. And
okay,
there was a lot of that in this chapter for me.
Maybe you can sub in like the highest self, right? So that like that voice in your head, that like part of your consciousness that is like the highest part, like the part that would...
That's actually not the part I'm having a hard time with.
Okay.
Because it will not conclude that it has. What does he mean by that?
Well, basically, that you can use your rationality to say that it like something that is causing you to suffer isn't really causing you to suffer if you just decide that it's not actually harming you.
It's pretty easy to write down.
Yeah.
But honestly, it sounds like it doesn't really seem like the reality to me. I mean, like,
yeah, if you had hot coals up your ass, like, then it would be different.
There's nothing I can do to say that that's not suffering. You know what I mean? And to say that people around us can't affect us isn't true factually. I don't want to go too deep into this. I'm not a neuroscientist, but basically, when we're babies, our nervous systems don't exactly know how to react to the world around us, and they latch on to the nervous system of our mother, and they become very, very tied to it, and they start to take cues on how to react from their mother's nervous system. When we move past the point of needing our parents for this is the same mental circuitry that you use to try to interact with the people around you. So in a very, very real way, you are actually affected by the people around you. It's very simple to say that you can choose not to be, but the truth is, like the average, medium social human being is very, very tied to the people around them, and that's human nature.
Yeah, that's an argument for sure. I've been myself like really experimenting with this idea, like in my own head. And there's a quote like, if someone has succeeded in provoking you, that you should realize that like you're complacent in the provocation. That might be Epictetus. I'm not exactly sure. Him or Seneca.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So then you agree with the rest of it, right? That like your rationality, like your higher self, can overcome like the adversities of life. Yeah,
to a point. I mean, like, I don't know if I agree with this to the full and ultimate extension, but I agree with it mostly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll unpack it a little bit as we go. And then sticking on that topic of pain, I think like another part that came out strongly here for me, pain is neither unbearable nor unending. So don't magnify it in your imagination. That idea kind of comes out of section 64.
Depending on how you look at this, I do have to patently disagree with this, man. Pain is unending. Life is pain. Like, life is unending pain, and the job is just to try to find a way to make it realistic. So, yeah, there's no way you're going to get me to agree with the idea that pain is unending.
I mean, it's unending because you die.
Yeah, that was why at the beginning I said, like in a certain meaning or a certain point of view. Yeah, so, it'll end when I die. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's a relief, right?
Oh, thank God.
In a certain sense. And it's pain is not unbearable. Again, going back to that whole idea of like the higher self, the higher mind, that even the most basic life forms fear pain, right? Like, I don't know, maybe even like an ant or...
What kind of pain are we talking about here? Because physical pain is a stimuli designed to protect you.
It's true, yeah.
Emotional pain, I don't know. Maybe does it fall into that category? Would you say it's a stimuli designed to protect you, or is it just kind of unresolved trauma?
I think it's more complicated than that. I don't know if I could even quite unpack all of that right now. It definitely like exists in the mind more than in just like the physical body, right? It's not just like you pit your...
But does it serve that same purpose of keeping you away from dangerous things? Or is it maybe the opposite with emotional pain, that you're kind of supposed to run towards your emotional pain a little bit inside yourself anyways?
Depends on the situation, but yeah, sometimes it's like a girlfriend that's really bad for you or something like that, and like you never know where she is or whatever. He causes you a lot of emotional pain, and that kind of suggests that you should maybe get into like a healthier relationship, something like that.
I can't speak to the specifics of that, but I can say I've been with girls that were bad for me.
But anyways, I would say that like pain is... I don't have like some type of like chronic pain illness where like my nerve endings are all messed up. The most pain that I've ever felt is when I broke my collarbone, and that was like whatever 3-4 months of unending pain. So
I've broken a knuckle, and so I can imagine how that would have felt. Yeah.
But it's not something that that you can't overcome, and it's not something that you can't like the whole mind over matter thing. Like, yeah, you are experiencing that pain. But I think if you realize that that's just like something that's tied to your body, and that your body is just like, it's just kind of like a bunch of dirt reconstituted into something with like a soul attached to it, right? If you think about it in that way, then...
So romantic when you say it that way.
Doesn't it just make you feel great? That the pain becomes more bearable. Like when I broke my collarbone, I felt pain all the time, but it like changed my life in a way and like made me a stronger person. So I wouldn't go back and change that, right? And the other day on the train, I had to pee really bad, and like the train was like going really slow. So it took like a lot of extra time to get to the next station where I could like switch into another train so that I could actually pee because the bathroom was out of order, right? And like I was able to persevere through that.
That's an interesting example. I did not expect to hear that today. And I'm very glad that you didn't pee yourself.
Well, and it made me like just grateful in general that, usually when I want to pee, I can pee like most of the time. Right.
One of the things that I say to the kids at scout camps is that no matter how rough it is, they're going to appreciate their beds when they get home.
True. Very true. Yeah.
So take it as a chance to appreciate what you have. So I see your point. But at the same time, when a person's on fire, I'm sure telling them, you got to feel the relief of not being on fire anymore isn't exactly going to be comforting, you know?
Or like when you think about it, your life was mostly you not being on fire. So, from that perspective.
At least there's that. It kind of reminds me of that Simpsons quote, like, this is the worst day of your life so far.
Yeah. This concept is a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, right? That you should like desire each thing as it happens. And that's how you can really like free yourself, mentally speaking. But
I'm willing to go as far as being thankful for it after, but desiring it while it happens can go fuck itself.
That's the hardest, man. That is hard. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll get there one day. It's episode 7. Maybe by episode 12, like we'll be there, but who knows?
Maybe. We'll see.
Some more key concepts here that I want to dig into a little bit, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah.
Okay. The chapter opens on an idea here that is, I don't know, I guess you could say strangely comforting in a way, kind of like takes the pressure off. I'll just read a little bit of it from my translation, right? Evil, the same old thing. No matter what happens, keep in mind, it's the same old thing from one end of the world to the other. It fills the books, ancient and modern, and cities and houses too. It's nothing new at all, familiar and transient.
In my translation, the word used was badness and not evil. And I've always had issues with the word evil for different reasons. Mainly that it's extremely unspecific, and it's generally used either as a propaganda tool or as a tool of the masses to isolate a specific group or individual.
Yeah.
And so I find it a very vague and dangerous word to be throwing around in almost any context.
Okay, what about, so let's try to like put it into a Stoic context. Like what would evil actually be from a Stoic point of view?
I mean, from a Stoic point of view, nothing is evil. Everything is just supposed to happen and it's all supposed to be fine. We're just part of it all and we're supposed to be okay with it. So
I guess the things that like the things that you see in the world that like offend you on a moral level, like the things that you like, I don't know, whatever word that you want to use, like abhorrent things that you witness in the world and you're like disgusted and appalled by them, right? I think that's maybe what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because like as a human being, like you do see, actions that happen during war or whatever the hell.
Thank God I haven't.
Yeah. Certain like sports performances or whatever, or certain filmmakers. And you're just terrified, right? You're just terrified to witness that. I think that's kind of what it's talking about here. Or just people who act in like an evil way, like people who are, just don't have a good heart and like don't have people's best intentions. And
yeah, so on a singular scale, I would say that it comes down to like self-centeredness or greed. Those two things are different, but they often go hand in hand. Yeah. And on a mass scale, I would say it often comes down to fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't really live in a world where people with mustaches are sitting around conniving to do evil, or like cartoon level Batman style gangs are getting together on the streets to, screw things up. I mean, those things are happening, but it's not Snidely Whiplash and conniving people. It's just desperate people trying to take either the easy way or whatever way they can to get what they need. Yeah. Sometimes more.
Sometimes desperate people or like business executives that
greed. Greed is the other one. Yeah, exactly. And so I've always said that evil is done by many, many small acts and not often one great one.
Yeah, very true.
You know what I mean? It takes a whole bunch of people just doing their jobs for evil to happen.
Yeah, and how they're able to justify it to themselves. But yeah, I think like what's supposed to be like comforting here, like just make you feel better about life, like the idea that evil has just always existed, right? Like,
yeah,
that it's not anything that's like new, that
you didn't create it.
Yeah, it's nothing that you did, right? And there's been like tremendous evil in the world, however you want to define that, like ever since the dawn of time or whatever, or since humans existed. I don't know, like if Tyrannosaurus Rex was like evil or not, but they were cool though.
I've always kind of thought that they look like maybe they jumped around like kangaroos. Yeah. That is my headcanon on Tyrannosaurus Rex, that those big legs and tiny arms were for kangaroo jumping.
Yeah, they look tough, man. I don't know. And they were kind of set up to be a bit angry, like with those small arms. It's just like frustrating, right? So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can't turn the lights on without hitting your head on the wall.
Yeah, indeed. And it's hard to make a bed and all of that, right? So.
Oh, terrible, yeah.
But luckily we've changed, we've evolved from the Tyrannosaurus Rex ways, except chickens haven't. Anyways, but speaking of change is vital to nature, Devin, and you're not exempt from it. That's another idea that comes out of this chapter here, chapter 7. Something that's returned to kind of over and over again is just this idea that like things are going to change, you should be comfortable with it. It's part of like letting go as well, right? Like I think you have a tendency, like a lot of people have a tendency to like, I don't know, it's like some type of like real-time strategy game or whatever, that you just like put all your resources together and you're like, okay, now I have my pile of shit and like I'm good, right? And like life isn't really like that. Life is kind of constantly changing.
Yeah, and I mean like that's on a personal scale and on like a really large long-term scale too. I think I'm quoting Spock when I say that change is the essential process of all life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something that you just like can't ever be afraid of, and also something that like you don't really have influence over necessarily. Like some things in your life are just going to change, and you need to be ready to accept that.
Yeah, you can't control everything. You just can't.
Yeah, and you're gonna like torture yourself mentally trying to do that. It's just impossible. Yeah. So another one that I find this like very appealing, I guess. I feel like it can be used in some weird ways though, which maybe is like a critique, but that the idea that like life is about the quality of life and not the quantity of life. Like you can live a good life and a short life, that you don't have to like cling desperately to the time that you have left, right?
It sounds to me like Stoics had boring orgies.
Okay. I guess so, man. I suppose, yeah.
No.
They did get together and drink some wine, so that was possible. But it was mostly a lot of bearded men, dude. I don't know. So
I don't know. It was the whole quality, not quantity thing.
yeah.
So I think that's a wonderful idea. But like nobody really wants to be Jim Morrison in that sense. Like very few of us actually want to like. You don't want to live that to its full extent. Like, it's not like you just have a great time living until you're 30 and you're like, well, that's it. Best year's over. Chop me up.
But maybe that is kind of an argument for hedonism, you know? Like, you got to enjoy it. Like, if someone, like, I honestly kind of do feel this way. Like, if someone wants to, like, get drunk and, like, have tons of sex and smoke cigarettes all day and, like, you know, you want to say to them, like, well, don't you know that you're, like, going to die and you shouldn't be living like this? But I think that that's a perfectly valid way to be like, it's my life. This is what I want to do. I'm enjoying getting drunk and gambling and smoking cigarettes, you know?
I guess think about it as it's not you. Think about it as it's somebody you love. You want more than that for the people you love.
That's true, man. But also I think you just need to accept it. Like if that's someone's lot in life, that's something that I've been kind of like trying to make myself okay with and being like, maybe that's like your role or, you know, like is to do that in life.
You can't make people's choices for them. You can wish or hope for better.
Yeah, you can hope for better for sure. And you can like learn from their example and stuff like that. But it's good to let it does say somewhere in this chapter as well, like other people's mistakes, like let them have those. Don't worry about it type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. The one like critique that I would have is that could definitely be used from like a military standpoint to be like, oh, you got to go die for your country. You know, it's all about like the quality of life, not quantity.
They already have like circular logic to achieve that. They don't really need this.
Yeah.
You know, they tie that into nationalism and to like connection to your community rather than tying that into like, live fast, not long, stupids.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's in like Starship Troopers and stuff like that, though. Like, what? Come on, go out there, kill the bugs. What do you want to live forever?
Yeah, anyways. I mean, I think that's just something, you know, it's the kind of thing that you probably say when you know you're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of justifications that military can use to get people to surrender their lives, but we can talk about that another time. Let's get into a few quotes here. This one is one of the most popular, so we'll definitely touch on it here. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. Does this one hit you? Like,
yeah, this one resonates with me. This is a way of thinking which I had adopted before ever reading it. And I mean, like, there's a lot of things that you can take this to mean. Mm-hmm. For me, what I take from this is a lot like, the past is gone. And whatever I thought the future was going to be, that's gone too.
Yeah.
I don't have either of those things left to hold me back anymore. And all there is left is whatever I have to give in this moment right now. And so the whole idea of thinking of myself as dead is very much about like, okay, forget about everything that came before me and forget about the idea of living, of like kind of like becoming obsessed or living in the idea of having a future and planning it out. Like just exist here and now and be just that and leave all that other stuff behind.
Yeah. It's inevitable that you will die. So like to live with that knowledge and to be okay with it, I think is to be free.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the most important parts of it is accepting and understanding that like you are not assigned or guaranteed any amount of time.
True. Yeah.
Right? It's not like you were born and somebody ticked off a thing and they were like, Jared Poirier, 92 years, dead by snoo snoo. It's not like that. It's like you could die tomorrow. So you have to live like you could die tomorrow. And so if there's important
or
things,
maybe it is like that, but it's been somehow like written in the book of fate that you will die tomorrow.
But you don't know that.
You don't know that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you have to live like you're going to die tomorrow. If there's important things, you have to do it because you could be fucking dead tomorrow. And all those things that you wanted to do, too fucking bad. You're dead. And you did nothing. You sat around fapping your whole life.
Oh, God. Well, good thing that I've been taking some good photos and recording good podcasts with my friend Devin. So at least, I've somewhat lived up to my potential in life.
Yeah, I mean, I used the name Jared. I was more talking about myself.
Oh, okay. You're projecting in more ways than one. It's quite possible to be a good man without anyone realizing it. From section 67. I like this. What do you think?
I like it. It's weird because on the one hand, that's kind of what I'm shooting for. But on the other hand, I feel like if you really are doing good, how can people not see it?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely tied in with the idea of doing the right thing because it's right, not because you're going to be praised for it, though. Like if you do so happen to, make an impact on history, then that's great. But that shouldn't ever be the reason why you do it. Right? Does that make sense?
You don't have to impact history. You basically just have to impact like a handful of people.
For sure, man. Or even one person.
Yeah. The way I see it is if I impact 5 people and they each impact 5 people and they each impact 5 people and so on and so forth.
Yeah, very true.
When you get 10 layers out, that's a huge number.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this idea. And I guess you can dig in on what it means to be a good man.
Oh God, everybody disagrees on that shit.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's some things that I guess are somewhat universal, like just being the best version of yourself, or performing your trade to the best of your abilities, living up to your potential. I think that these are all things that are considered good, but I don't know, other people.
We should stop here to say for a second that this is gendered because it was written 1,800 years ago.
Yeah.
And I definitely like to say that all of this includes non-men as well.
This is true, yeah, and everybody in between.
Yeah, like I said, non-men.
Yeah, it's all of this stuff that people should realize that. Yeah, you can sub in woman or whatever, whatever you want.
Just wanted to say it since we hadn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. This one I like a lot. Okay. Treat whatever happens as wholly natural, not novel or hard to deal with, but familiar and easily handled. So this is something that I'm really trying to work on in my life. I do kind of have this tendency to resist, not necessarily hard things, but things that I just I don't know, I'm apathetic towards. I I hate bureaucracy and I hate paperwork. That's just something about me. I'm trying to do a passport application right now. It's 2 pages and it took me weeks to do it just because to sit down and do it. I was I hate this. I don't know.
Aren't you your condo association president, Mr. Hates Bureaucracy?
Yeah, I know, man. Well, yeah, and that stuff's frustrating too. It's frustrating to deal with these things, but the stuff that comes, if you're presented with those types of things, a good way to look at it is this. This is not difficult. This is not unnatural in any way. This is just what I have to do, and I shouldn't complain about it, right? And that idea of natural. Does a bee complain about how it has to make honey? No, right?
I don't know. I don't speak bee.
Does a yeah, that's true. They might be really just. Yeah,
we're really pissed.
Yeah, they might be. That's true.
Could be what all that buzzing's about.
Yeah, I just want to be having bee sex all day and drinking a bee. What cocktail would bees like? Whatever. A beesel smash. Anyways.
A cosmopolitan.
Oh.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Okay.
bees don't complain, and neither should you. I'm getting us out of Pine Town before it gets too late.
A little bit. So I mean, I see this quote as standing at the heart of Stoicism, and like there's things about Stoicism that I disagree with, and there's things about it that I do. But all of that aside, I mean, if you wanted to sum up Stoicism in a few rather a few sentences, this really would have to be included.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and just to make your life easier, right? Just having a mindset like we were saying earlier, these things are going to happen anyways. Like you're going to experience a lot of hardship in your life. And yeah, if you just treat it as if it's like natural and easy to deal with, then like if you're actually able to it's kind of like reprogramming like your inner voice in a way, right?
Man, that's like the hardest thing to do ever. And like, I mean, I've been trying to reprogram my inner voice for years, and I don't know if it's ever really going to change so much as I'm just going to be there correcting it, being like, hey, what did I tell you?
Like having two inner voices. Yeah. Like that's kind of like the lower and higher self, right? There's like the self that wants to eat 15 hot dogs. And then there's the self that's like, man, you really shouldn't be eating 15 hot dogs.
You know what scares me the most is when they agree.
Uh-oh. And then you've got three people against you. You've got like the higher and lower self and the hot dogs, right? And like,
yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, like, the thinking gets done in a few places for men, right? Like, some of it's done in your head, some of it's done in your gut, and some of it's done in your balls.
That's true. And somehow you have to find the dialectic between those things, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But this is the journey of life, Devin. Do you want to get into a little bit of applying these lessons to your life, or would you rather just keep it all purely theoretical and a waste of time?
No, I mean, philosophy is theoretical and a waste of time. Let's just end it there. No, I'm kidding. Let's definitely get into...
Podcast is over.
Podcast over. Yeah, that's it. Figure it out.
Close the university. Close it down. Shut it down.
Yeah, they should all just go home. Devin and Jared figured it out. Screw you, Greece. Screw you, Rome. Screw you, Descartes. And screw you, German guy that Jared's always talking about.
Marx?
Hegel.
Oh, Hegel. Yeah.
No, actually, I have mad respect for all those people.
Yeah. And Nietzsche's pretty cool, too.
Nietzsche's all right. He's a little bit of a negative prick, but yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can be a negative
I guess
prick.
People have said similar things about me.
Yeah.
I can see I got you there.
Then you're in good company in some sense, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So have you experienced pain, emotional or physical, in your life? And what lessons has it taught you about yourself? Has it made you stronger and more resilient? How have you converted this raw material into something that serves you? Wow. Listen, I could dance all over this one all damn day. And I mean, I'm not going to turn this into me sitting here and explaining a whole bunch of trauma, but what I'll say is this, and I mean, I don't know, the last 6, maybe 10 months have felt different for me in a really big way. And when I think about it, if my pain's taught me anything at all, it's that I'm the guy that gets back up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fuck it. At this point, I got nothing left to lose. I could get kicked down over and over again and keep getting back up, because why not? That's what I do.
Yeah, and maybe if someone had come to you and said, like, you know, Devin, we're going to put all this pain on you, do you think that you'll be able to handle it? And you would have said no, right? You would have said, or I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What would you have said?
I probably would have said no, and I very nearly couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, it was questionable there.
Yeah, but that's how resilience works, right? Like,
you don't need to be resilient if you don't have any pain to deal with.
Yeah, that's true.
That's you, not me. Or I guess that's you putting words in my mouth. I don't know.
Yeah, as you were saying, everybody does deal with some pain. Like, no one gets out of life without feeling any sort of pain at all. And
I have to wonder if there's somebody that has, like, how fucking boring was that person?
Yeah, it's true, man.
Like, how interesting could somebody be if they've never experienced any hardship?
Yeah, it's in its own way, it's like really bad luck if you're just born into a life of luxury, and you never have the opportunity to prove yourself, right? This is a very Stoic idea.
Yeah, and also, like, to not have the opportunity every day, or to not give yourself the opportunity every day to be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I put in the last part here just because I really like this idea in chapter 7 here of, and I think it's in other chapters as well, but that, like, what life presents the mind is just raw material, right? So that's how if you're really able to, like, orient your mind that way, so, like, any new challenge that you face is to be considered raw material for the mind to turn into what it wants, right?
That's interesting. I think of it as data.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Everything I perceive is just data.
Yeah. Yeah. And to think of it as neither good nor bad, but, like, essentially, like, something that you can react to and something that you can perhaps, like, incorporate into, like, living the type of life that you want, right?
Data is neither good or bad, but some of it really sucks.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I'm terrible at math and stuff like that. Like, stats in university nearly killed me. So we won't talk about that too much, but yeah. This one we'll touch on again. Just like a good idea that's coming out of this episode, I think. Are there things in your life that are relatively simple to overcome, and yet you blow them out of proportion in your own mind? Definitely yes. I just talked about the passport application thing. This can really be anything. This could be like, I have to vacuum my floor.
Customer service on the phone.
Customer service on the phone.
I blow that one out of proportion. I hate doing it.
Yeah, I get upset very quickly.
Oh, me too.
That goes back to something that we've talked about many times, though, is that you shouldn't be impatient with people who aren't as smart as you, right?
So there's that. Here's the thing. You know what? It's not about the people. It's about those electronic systems.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes it even worse.
I worked in a call center. I hated it, and I am always polite with the people on the other end of the phone when in a call center.
Yeah.
But those damn machines. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They make me feel like, you know, the doctor from the original Star Trek. I just want to bitch about them all day. Those damn freaking machines.
But, you know, you've overcome worse, so.
Yeah, and I'll find those machines and I'll get them someday.
Yeah, I don't know, man. A lot of things are looking like it's teeing us up for kind of a Terminator reality or whatever, but.
And those robots are going to play this very episode back to me when they're tearing me apart.
Yeah.
Like, who's laughing now?
That's okay, though. That would be some type of contribution to the future, so I'm comfortable with that.
I mean, like, for me, it's not exactly low on my list of possible ways to die.
Yeah. There's definitely worse ones. Yes, the things that you do you do them for the right reason? Do you care about your good acts being recognized by others? Right now, I do. If I'm being totally honest, like, I do care that people notice, like, the good things that I do. And I think that's...
You're trying to get ahead business-wise, and I mean, you need that recognition.
I guess so. I also like to be recognized for, like, charitable work, or even just, like, you know, like, going back to that thing of, like, housework or whatever, like chores around the house. Like, I do appreciate it if, like, you know, if Masha's like, damn, like, you did a great job on cleaning the floor here, you know, basic shit like that. I think that I should probably try to get over it, though, because if you're, like, truly confident in yourself and you're, like, truly trying to live a good life, you shouldn't really care that like other people praise you, right?
I've lived a life where I had no choice but to get comfortable with the idea of doing a lot and not necessarily always being thanked for it. So that is an element of ego which I lost a long, long time ago. But that being said, when I started getting involved in volunteering and stuff like that, and started to get recognition, which I did not ask for, it certainly does feel good.
Yeah. And I think that does
feel good.
I think that's okay too. Like, to enjoy the recognition, I think is okay. But yeah, don't do it just for the recognition. I think that's where it becomes a problem, right? And
is that even doing good? If you're just looking for for press attention,
it's still doing
is
good.
That really even doing good?
It's still doing good. Oh, if it wasn't for that, like, and tax write-offs, there would just be no charity in our society. So
there's a little bit of that, and that is true. Now, that being said, charity existed before tax write-offs.
No, I know. But
there's always been charity
under a capitalist system. This is like kind of how charity functions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, that's fair. Under our system, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, like, I'm a firm believer that charity has and always will exist. And to boot, I mean, despite my criticisms of religion, and I have many, one of the things that it really does do is it does foster charity in its communities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I kind of expected us to criticize Christianity a lot more in this episode, but let's not. We'll do it again. We'll do it some other time in the future.
That could be a whole podcast on its own, if I'm being honest.
What a great, that would be a popular podcast. The Christian Bashing Podcast.
That'll definitely make us a bunch of money.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean,
that'll be big in the Bible Belt.
I don't have problems with Christians.
Yeah.
I have problems with organized religion, and some of the things that it does. It's in general, Christians are good people.
I guess there's a whole bunch of problems with, I mean, especially in comparison to like the idea in Stoicism, like, anyways, I don't want to get in it too deeply. Maybe we can like another time kind of compare and contrast the two, but it
fits into the historical context for very important reasons.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll definitely get into it later on. But in the meantime, do you want to give these people some homework?
Yeah. So make a list of the painful experiences in your life. It doesn't have to be all of them. It can just be some of the more important ones.
Like the time you had to pee really bad on the train, something like that.
Yeah, or the time that I pooped while I was skateboarding.
Oh no!
And the good that came from overcoming them,
and the good that came from that being viral on YouTube.
Oh, thank God it wasn't. What a day! So I guess you're right. I've been through the worst. I'll survive.
Yeah. All right. Drop a quote on you guys, and we'll let you get out of here, and we'll see you in a week's time. A quote from our favorite guy, Epictetus. Circumstances don't make the man. They only reveal him to himself.